These are the 5 books that you helped me choose to add to my TBR for this month.
3 weeks later.
We are following a young girl named Sorsha. She has 6 older brothers, and her father, I think, is like the leader of a clan, perhaps, or a kingdom. His soldiers and the oldest of his sons have kind of made it their mission to drive out the Britons in their land and their own people and their own villagers, and the forest have kind of suffered in consequence. There's not a lot of great defense or medical care or even adequate food for their people. We already have had an introduction of a new character who is from the Britain side. Sorsha is in a position where only she has the skills and the courage to care for this person medically. I don't know if it's going to develop into more than that. I'm enjoying it so far. I always love Juliet Marillier's writing. The inspiration of the Celtic people and folklore is very much there, and I think that's what really makes her books come alive, is they feel almost historical, even though they're clearly magical. We have references to the Fae and such, but yeah, I'm enjoying my time so far with this one. We are following a main character named Rowan. The context of her storytelling is she's writing a letter from jail to a lawyer to solicit his help. The letters that we're reading are her kind of pleading her case, explaining everything that happened to her. She got a position as a nanny for a family of 3 children who live in a kind of remote area. Almost sounds like she is being transported to someplace similar to Wuthering Heights. She responded to this newspaper ad for a nanny position that kind of sounded a little bit too good to be true as far as the salary and the perks were concerned. They've gone through several nannies over the last year. The nannies all left, I'm guessing because of things that happened at the house that frightened them away. When she arrives at the house, she notices something distinctive, and that is the house does not have a keyhole because the husband is quite obsessed with technology of all sorts. Further into her tour of the home, she discovers that they don't have traditional light switches in the rooms. There is like a control panel, but you can also control things from your phone. I think this book was in 2017, so I'm not sure that that was like relatively new at the time. I'm pretty sure that like the idea of a smart home was still pretty popularized. It's a great setup. This was a recommendation here on BookTube, I think from one of you, so thank you for the recommendation. I am pretty much hooked already, even though I haven't gotten too deep into the story. I will keep you posted on how this one goes. More later! Please do ignore my crazy hair. I'm glad that we picked this one, and I would recommend it if you like 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Can't talk about it, otherwise I would give away spoilers, but it was just a really well-constructed thriller. I loved the setting, I loved the mystery at the center of it, and the characters were very interesting too, so highly recommend. I am 50% of the way through Daughter of the Forest. This is my prediction that I will finish that today. This book is really playing with my emotions a lot. Even though I'm familiar with the fairy tale that this book is adapted from, I probably read either maybe a young adult version of the story or a picture book adaptation. If I do track that down before I post this, I will include a photo of that This is a lot more personalized, I feel like. Sorsha is just a really lovable main character, and she is having to go through so much simply because she loves her brothers. Her brothers are under a curse, and it's down to her performing like this impossible task to save them. That's like as far as I'll go, like into the plot of the book without giving away spoilers. It's just really good, but it also has made me cry. I have definitely teared up a few times because things just get so hard for her, and especially like about 40% into the story, something really traumatic happens to her. The way that Marillier deals with trauma, it's got a lasting impact on the characters. It's not just this horrible thing happened and you move on. I feel like there's a lot of therapeutic truths in the way that she writes. I have some predictions as to where it's going to go from here, but I try to do non-spoilery reading vlogs. If you ever feel like you would prefer me to give spoilers about what I'm reading, let me know, because I'm still learning how to do these well, and I want to know what you like. I would be shocked if I don't finish it and give it 5 stars. Today, I think I'm going to try to listen to Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. It's kind of nice to be flexible, to be able to change between the physical book and the audiobook, and unfortunately I can't do that with anyone except Everything I've Never Told You.
1977, May 3rd, 6:30 in the morning. No one knows anything but this innocuous fact.
Today is my birthday, and Jeff took me to a bookshop that I'd never been to before, and it was really interesting. I feel like they really went all out with the set design in each room to make it kind of like a spooky or themed. There was a Frankenstein room in one of the houses, and then the other house had a Sherlock room. I think that was probably my favorite. I did buy one book, The Blighted Stars by Megan O'Keefe, which is the first book in a series. I have seen a few people talking about this one, and it sounded right up my alley. At page 197 of this book, and this is a much heavier read, I would say, despite its size, than the other books that I've been reading this week. I love Celeste Ng's descriptive writing. The littlest motions she observes very carefully. There's a scene where this brother and sister are sitting at the kitchen table and they're in a conversation with their two parents. The parents have very much projected the future they wanted for themselves on their children, especially the eldest daughter, Lydia. And she is sitting at the table. They have a moment where Lydia looks up at the ceiling and she remembers that there was a spider on the ceiling one day, and her brother threw his shoe up at the ceiling to kill the spider, and he left this giant print of his father's shoe on the ceiling. So he said, "Tell mom and dad you did it," because he knew that she won't get in as much trouble as he would. They decide to try to cover it up with paper white, and so she's looking up at the ceiling. She remembers that it happened. She's trying to tell the difference between the white of the ceiling and the paper white that they painted up there. And then she glances back down to her brother, and everything has changed. In fact, they're all hiding like some very heavy things from one another. But I think that the way that she observes, like the way that people gesture and think and make connections, is really interesting. I'm enjoying this one, and I will probably finish it today, and then I am looking forward to starting one of the other 2 books that are left. I haven't started Evil Under the Sun yet by Agatha Christie, and I also have We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Talk to you later. I don't know what to rate this. I think 2 stars, maybe 2.5 stars. The writing isn't bad, but it was quite boring and very strange. So, yeah, pretty typical for Shirley Jackson, I would say. I feel like this is a really solid, cold, rainy, autumnal day outfit. And I have these really pretty dried Queen Anne's lace earrings. This day of the week just always hits the hardest for me, so thought I might as well psych myself up. We're doing this together. My reading has been a little slow over the last few days. I was not in the mood to read. I had just 1 book left on my 5-book TBR, and that was Evil Under the Sun. But I really felt a little bit of a slump coming on after I read We Have Always Lived in the Castle. So I picked up something that was just kind of like a candy book, and that is The Spellshop. And I'm loving this book. It reminds me so much of Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Very much in the same vein, we have a librarian who has fled her library where she loves to work. Danger threatened, so she had to leave, and she has returned to where she grew up, and she is using her gifts and her bookish leanings to help improve the lives of the villagers around her. There's also a little bit of a romance that's developing. I'm hoping that it's not going to get too spicy, because that feels like it would be really off for like the vibes of this book. It's such a sweet and wholesome book so far, and I'm enjoying that. I will still read the Agatha Christie book because I really want to finish this vlog strong. I want to finish my secret TBR. I just have not felt like editing, and when I don't feel like editing, I don't feel like filming, and the top of that mountain is obviously like I don't feel like reading. What have I been doing? I have been starting a rewatch of Call the Midwife. I have watched all of them before, just very slowly as they've been released. So love the characters, the little portrait of London life back in the day. I don't know why I'm doing that, but that's what I've been in the mood for lately. So I think it's perfectly normal to have those periods of time where you just want to binge a show instead of read a book, and I've had a few days like that lately. So hopefully this week I'll be able to get back in reading somewhat. I feel like I'm already on a good footing for what I have to get done this week, which is great news. Trying to stay positive and looking forward to being done with this day so that I can just relax with a good book. I have not read very much, and this is Thursday. It's also not surprising because I have, however, still been reading The Spellshop by Beth Durst. Entirely delighted by this one. Very wholesome, very fun. It's just when I need it. So I would recommend this one. If you also feel like you're in a bit of a reading slump, maybe give this one a try. It is very much like Legends and Lattes. I think you might like it if you like The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. What are some other parallels? Maybe a tiny bit of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Have a similarly independent and bookish main female character in this story, so that's probably a good tie-in as well. My goal is to read the last book for the vlog this week.
Hercule Poirot, resplendent in a white duck suit with a Panama hat tilted over his eyes, his moustaches magnificently befurled, lay back in an improved type of deck chair and surveyed the bathing pool.
Finished all of the books on my secret TBR. I have some standouts, some that I maybe would recommend a little bit more specifically than broadly. The first one that I want to talk about is Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. This is a standout first book for a series, and I think it's because the mood is so well set from the very beginning of this story. Sorcia, I think she has 6 brothers. Her brothers are put under a curse. It is up to Sorcia and her steadfast commitment to go through whatever it takes in order to save her brothers from a fate perhaps worse than death. I loved this book. I think it's a great first book of a series. I gave it 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read book 2. The season moved on. Bees clustered heavy on the sweet flores of lavender, and the woods were carpeted with jewel-bright flowers. Day and night were in balance, and birds were busy with wisps of straw and twig, readying havens for a new brood. Venturing to the lakeshore early one morning, I saw flocks of water birds far out toward the small islands, drifting on the silver expanse of water, rising to the sky in great clouds of beating wings or stooping for fish. I could not tell at such a distance if any of them were swans. So good. This Saturday morning I had apricot jam on my toast, and I thought of Constance making it and putting it away carefully for me to eat on some bright morning, never dreaming that a change would be coming before the jar was finished. This one is weird. From the moment that I read the first lines, I was so confused as to what was going on in the story. It's not until you get about the halfway point, maybe the 3/4 mark, where you have like this big reveal. I did not love this book. I did tab a few things because Shirley Jackson's writing is quite good. I just didn't particularly love the story. Maybe it's because of the themes of otherness and prejudice that go into this story. But at the center, we have this family who is kind of wealthy. They have a nice home that is isolated from the local village. And at some point in their history, most of the family were killed at dinner one night. The eldest sister has been recused of the crime. She went to court, she defended herself, and it's just her and her younger sister and their uncle living alone in this house together that I guess you could call a castle. It's strange, but it also has like beautiful descriptions of running wild through the woods in the fall with a cat companion. Our main character, she has a lot of inner turmoil in her thoughts and a lot of anger that she's repressing. She's 18 years old, but her inner thoughts are not like an 18-year-old. They're actually more like someone much younger. If you're interested in picking up this classic, it's definitely a good time of the year for it. I read 2 mysteries. One was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I think that's probably my favorite of her books that I've read so far. Probably a little better than The It Girl because it really hit the atmosphere, kept me guessing with the plot, liked our main character. She's a character that you want to root for because she made some decisions that I feel are relatable and others maybe that are not, so it's enough of a unique perspective to make you want her to do okay. That one I think is probably around the 3.5 to 4 star mark for me. Evil Under the Sun. It took me such a long time to read this short little book, but I think that is probably one of the best Agatha Christie's that I have read. There's so many suspects that have plausible motives for the murder in this situation, but the heart of it all is this beautiful woman. She is not the most faithful in her marriage relationship, so there are other guys that are kind of hovering around her. A lot of different characters that could have done it in this situation. Even her stepdaughter is feeling kind of jealous of her father's attention and doesn't really like the woman he married. Poirot is just on vacation. This guy can't go on vacation without solving a murder. This one maybe doesn't fit the fall vibe as far as the setting goes. It might read a lot better in the summer when you can actually go to the beach and go swimming. It's a solid mystery choice if you just want to add some more short mysteries to your list for this fall. Everything I Never Told You. This is kind of a heartbreaking book, which I think all of Celeste Ng's books are, if I'm honest. The way that she does character study is awesome. If you want a short but poignant story about family relationships and this topic of how some immigrant families tend to pin their hopes and dreams that were unrealized on their children and how that can become a burden not only to their children's future but also their relationships with one another. I feel like that's a very common topic. Celeste Ng does that in such a good way. If you're familiar with Little Fires Everywhere, it kind of explored both sides of a black mother and daughter, a white mother and daughter, their prejudices against one another and how their daughters gravitated to the opposite mother for advice, for direction. They're almost companion stories, but they're completely different families. This one starts off with the loss of a child. The other is more about the process of losing a child relationally. If you like the family drama of it all, but you want it to be meaningful, also if you like beautiful descriptive writing, Celeste Ng is your girl. So that's the end of my successful reading vlog. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you've been enjoying your fall reading so far. If you read something great in the last few weeks, let me know. Drop a comment below. I always look forward to hearing from you, and I am so excited for what the future weeks of reading hold for us. Finally closing in on the last of 2024. Happy reading!